So investors look for a number of criteria when they look at startups. Many. I've a huge list. I'll go over 3 of the top ones. Number 1, they do look at the team very closely. And they like to have more than one founder. A solo founder can succeed, and they have succeeded, but it's less likely. And it's a red flag because if you have a solo founder, what the investor wants to see, could you attract talented people to your company who will work for equity, for no money? Right. If you're a solo founder and you've hired contractors, it doesn't mean anything. You're paying them. As soon as you stop paying them, they're leaving, right? They're only there for the money. If you could pull people out of Samsung and Google and Facebook who could have had like 6-figure great jobs, right? Working at those companies and lots of prestige and making their parents very happy, but they left those companies to join your startup and work for this unknown CEO, then you must have a couple things. Number 1, you must be a great leader at attracting that talent. Number 2, they must believe in your idea. So there must be some merit in your idea. And number 3, you must be a personality type that people want to work with, which is really, really important. If the CEO is a jerk or insecure or all these problems, how do you know when you're interviewing them? Because anybody can put on a nice face. Well, you know by the founders around them. If the founders don't want to work with them, that's a good sign that you don't want to work with the CEO as an investor. Number 2, they look at the market. So they have to believe in the market. So all investors have a thesis about the market, where the market is headed. And you'll see markets open and close very fast in Silicon Valley. The Bitcoin market was open, then it didn't work out, it closed, right? Wearables market, wide open, had some big successes. Fitbit was a huge success. But now it's closed a lot. Most wearable startups having an incredible time, hard time getting funded, because investors are like, wow, that's a really tough market. Especially fitness and wearables, it's like almost over, right? You're getting an iWatch or you're getting a Fitbit, it's done, right? How many of these do you need? You're not gonna wear 6 of them on your arm. You're gonna wear 1. And most people have gotten their 1 and they'll keep upgrading. So these markets open and close very fast, and investors are looking at timing is everything. You need to time your startup right. Investors know that, and so when the market is closed, they all shut down. And if you're out of sequence in the market, it'll be very hard to raise money. If you're in sequence, if you're at just the right cusp of something big, virtual reality is hot right now. FinTech is hot. AI is hot. Big data is hot. A lot of these weren't hot a few years ago, and a lot of them won't be hot a few years from now. Number 3, smart investors will look at what I call the secret sauce. The secret sauce of a company is what they do differently than everybody else. So what is their core fundamental value that they offer that no other company offers? And by core fundamental value, most startups in Silicon Valley are the same as other companies that already exist with an extra set of features. Now, features make a product better. They don't make it different. That's the difference. Features make an existing product better. Features never win. Features only can improve. They're called incremental innovation. What investors look for is radical innovation. That's transforming a market, remaking a market, opening up a new market. You only do that by looking at what the customer or the user really needs and offering something that the market isn't getting from the current set of companies out there. No, I'd say the fundamental core value of Google was different. So other search engines looked at how many keywords were in the page that related to the keyword you were searching for. So something would come up with a lot of keywords. It might not actually be the best site to come up. So it was just a site with a lot of keywords, but it was a crappy website. Wasn't the best site. Google fundamentally changed the search engine algorithm. They said the number of incoming links, and we'll weight these links. So important sites that are very important that link to you count for more than weak sites. So it can't just be the number, it's the number of important links, weighted links that come into you will determine the search results. So they ranked like a magazine writes about you, that's a legitimate source, very high rank. A university like MIT, even higher. You get more points, a lot of points for MIT. So this algorithm actually produced results that were meaningful to people. You get a meaningful result and you get a bunch of what? There's no competition. It's a fundamentally different product. It's offering a fundamentally different value. It's actually solving the problem, okay? The others weren't solving the problem of search. That's why Google won. Facebook, they reinvented. Yes, there were other social networks before them. There's other everything before everything. But they fundamentally reinvented social networking. So there was Friendster out there, and Friendster was actually pretty close to Facebook, but it failed for a lot of reasons. So number one was technical. Their system just bogged down. They did not scale, and they killed themselves, technically. Number two, they pissed off their key influencers, who all jumped to MySpace, which launched MySpace. So first they were failing technically, and then they did some policy changes that made these key influencers leave to MySpace. Now MySpace was exploding before Facebook, but MySpace was a fundamentally different structure. The pages were god-awful. I don't know if you were even around during MySpace. Okay, but I was there, and you look at these flashing, blinking, just like hideous, that it was a hideous experience, right? You know, in Facebook, what Facebook did was they reinvented it. They had the feed, a beautifully simple feed, an elegant, consistent interface across the whole thing, a small, closed community of friends, right? Not just like random music people and all, right? This stuff with all this garbage floating around and people trying to get as many, connections as possible who you didn't even care about. So you were seeing quality content from your friends, and they started very closed, right? And expanded outward in a very readable, digestible format. That is something none of the predecessors had done. And that is why they were the first ones to grab the market. Now I can go through every single startup in history and tell you exactly why, that there may have been many people before them, but why they succeeded. There's always a reason. It's not random. Let me tell you very simply, the market will always determine whether you succeed. It doesn't matter what you believe. So at the end of the day, the market means the users who are going to use it or the customers who are going to buy it. So they're going to always decide. You're never going to decide. You will decide what to put in your app or your product or whatever it is, but they will decide whether it's successful. They will tell you whether they're going to use it. Now, you can go on your gut instinct and say, I believe this feature will be very valuable to my users. So I'm going to insist and put it on there, and I'm going to throw it out in the market and see if it works. You can do that. That is a fine way of proceeding. That's how most startups, that's what you're supposed to do. But what they're telling you is get your feedback early. And if you're getting feedback that contradicts what you believe your app is about, listen to that feedback, because it is telling you what's real. What's in your head is only what you believe to be real. It's not reality. Reality always exists outside your head. So let me give you an example of this. Groupon, we all know Groupon, right? The big coupon site, right? They started as a site called The Point. The point of The Point was that it was about causes. It was a site where people who believed in a cause passionately would come and do this and promote their cause. And it was a social network about causes. And the founder of Groupon was like passionate about this, like you. He was like, this is my idea. I believe in causes. This is going to be the thing. He raised a little angel money. He was working on this a long time, right? The Point, it kind of grew, but never became big. But as it's growing, there was a group on there, and they decided our cause is to save money. We're gonna get together, and we're gonna try to get discounts by banding together. Discounts from stores and local places. That's our cause. He was like, that's not a real cause. That's not what this site is about. But he put up with it. He let them exist. But his angel investor, who was really smart, came and said, look at what they're telling you. They want this as the cause, right? There's something here. If they made this up and they really want it, why don't we create a separate page and let them do their thing? And he was like, no way, that's totally against what the point is. The point is not about getting discounts, it's about doing something good for the world. So he ignored this for quite some time until the financial crisis happened and all the money dried up. And then his investor came back again, who was very persistent, and said, nobody's going to give you money for The Point, right? This thing isn't taking off. Look at what these people are doing. Let's give it a shot. Let's just see if it works. So he said, okay, he's desperate then, right? My company's going to fail. He put out this, they called it a Groupon, right? And they put it out there to see if people could get discounts on their group buying. Boom! It exploded, right? And that was what listening to the market means. It means the market will, it doesn't matter what you believe, the market will always end up determining whether it's a failure or success. Now, it's not to say that what you intended, you can't figure out the right way of doing it. It's not to say that features that don't work the first time might work later. But it's to say, pay very close attention to what users are saying in your app or your system, or customers are saying as feedback, because they're telling you what they really want. And you're only telling them what you want, which may be totally different. Absolutely. More startups fail because they get funded too early than too late. And I will tell you why. Because when you get funded, a lot of startup founders will think, oh my, the investor invested in me, they're really smart. I must be on the right track. And then their mindset changes from exploration and discovery and trying to find a product market fit to execution and implementation. And so they lock down on that idea and they feel like, well, the investor gave me money, we have to go with this. And they just start going and they stop listening to the customer, they stop listening to the user, they stop experimenting, they start building out their system. Well, if they haven't exactly figured it out, which most startups have not when they get funded initially, they have not figured it out, then they're just going basically down a path that will lead nowhere. It doesn't matter how much money they raise, they will end up falling off a cliff. If the beauty about not raising money is that you're constantly questioning yourself. My God, does this really work? Is there really anything here? Should I keep pursuing this? You're being very critical of yourself and keep trying new things, and your chance of success goes way up. Because you really have to find something that's just a fit that's so good that it will explode to become a venture-funded business, and most of them won't. And so getting funded early kills many startups. We've seen it in Silicon Valley. We see it in China with the O2O startups. Like, so many of them got wiped out because they got funded before they had figured it out. Well, angel round, you can get anytime, but don't let it fool you, right? It's a small amount of money, it should be a small amount, and it should only be used for testing and validation. It should not be used for implementation or scaling or execution. That is wrong, right? You shouldn't be acquiring a lot of customers, you should be constantly testing with that. Seed money, usually you figured something out. So the initial data is positive, and the seed investors are coming in to help you get it to the point where you have real traction. Right? So seed money is to build on positive validation, to build traction. When you have real traction, you're in your Series A, what we call Series A now, or pre-Series A. And that traction means, wow, this is going. This has legs. There's something here that is going to be not a medium-sized business, not a small business, but has potential to be a really, really big business.